Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Quality Enrichment Program by Baji Rao IAS Academy. So, in this program, we have been trying to understand the major themes which are asked by the UPSC in mains examination, and also we will try and understand how we can structure those answers, because structuring of these answers is very important in getting good marks. So therefore, if you regularly follow these sessions, you would be equipped to write better answers in your exam, right? So the first question for today's discussion is, troposphere is a very significant atmospheric layer that determines weather processes. How? Now, if you look at the Earth's atmosphere, it has a varied layers. It has a different layers. Now, at the lower level, we can find troposphere. If we go up above the troposphere, there is a stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere and exosphere. Now in the troposphere, majority of the weather processes, the atmospheric conditions takes place in the troposphere. So whether it is the circulation of winds and the temperature, so everything is decided in the troposphere. However, in the stratosphere we can find the presence of ozone layer. Now if you look at the troposphere, generally the temperature, if we go up, declines. Okay, going with the altitude, increasing altitude, the temperature decreases in the troposphere, and this is called as lapse rate. Now in this image you can see, if we go up, the temperature generally declines in the troposphere. However, when it comes to the stratosphere, the temperature increases with increasing altitude, right? On the right side you can see, up to 12 kilometers the troposphere is present, 11 to 50 kilometers the stratosphere, and 40 to 50, from 40 to 50 to 80 to 90 kilometers mesosphere, thermosphere and exosphere. Now exosphere is the uppermost layer of the Earth. So therefore, in the upper layer of the planet Earth, that is exosphere, the temperature is very high. So along with highest temperatures, so majority of the spaceships can be found in this region along with the satellites. Now in this question, what you have to do is, first you need to write what is troposphere. So first you need to write what is troposphere, and then you have to address the second part, that is the significance of the troposphere. Now firstly, describe briefly what is troposphere. Now as I have already told you that troposphere is the lowest layer in the Earth's atmosphere. Now the extent, the altitude of the troposphere has been extending from 8 kilometers up to 15 kilometers. So this is the normal altitude of the troposphere. So if we look at the weather processes that used to take place in the troposphere, they include changes in the temperatures. So regular changes in the temperatures. As I have already told you that if we increase the height in the troposphere, temperature generally declines. And apart from that, troposphere also determines the precipitation, wind patterns and other important meteorological conditions that used to take place on the planet Earth. So this is a brief description of the troposphere. Next, you have to address the second part of the answer. The second part is analysis of the troposphere significance in the determining weather processes. See, when you write these headings, you just have to write what is given in the question, so that examiner used to feel like you are addressing the demand of the question, or you are addressing what is being asked in the question. Now firstly, how troposphere determines the temperature gradient. See, while increasing at altitude in troposphere, temperature decreases. So therefore, in this context, troposphere experiences decrease in temperatures with increasing altitude. Now this phenomenon is called as lapse rate. In geography, it is a very important term, please remember. So what is lapse rate? Lapse rate is decreasing temperatures with increasing altitude. So this is called as lapse rate. Now this particular gradient, that is decreasing of temperatures with increasing altitude, further drives the convection currents. So convection currents are also a very important phenomenon when it comes to precipitation. Because of sunlight or solar insolation, the convection currents used to take place, and then convection currents led to the formation of clouds over a certain region. Okay, so formation of clouds and then condensation and precipitation. So this is how it usually works, and the example is formation of a cumulonimbus clouds which produce thunderstorms. So now cumulonimbus clouds are also formed on the basis of first convection currents. Okay, so first convection currents and then formation of clouds and precipitation. So this is how it usually works. And secondly, troposphere plays a very significant role in determining water vapor and cloud formation. See, because majority of the water vapor in the atmosphere is concentrated in the troposphere. Okay, so majority of the water vapor is concentrated in the troposphere, and this water vapor plays a very essential role in formation of clouds. Now for clouds like nimbus clouds, cumulonimbus clouds, so when they formed, they also determine the precipitation over a particular area. So therefore determining the extent of water vapor, cloud formation, precipitation of an area is also decided by the this stratosphere. Now secondly, we need to talk about the condensation. For example, due to the convection currents, cloud forms. Okay, so cloud forms with increasing altitude, the temperature also decreases. So when the temperature decreases, the water vapor, the air which carries the water vapor, cools, and then condensation in the form of precipitation or rainfall takes place over an area. Okay, so because now the latent heat which is trapping these water vapor will be released, and that led to the precipitation and influences the weather patterns over an area. Now the formation of stratus clouds which can lead to drizzle or light rain. Now thirdly, we need to talk about the weather patterns. So how this determines the weather patterns over an area, right? So we very often come across winds like trade winds, westerlies and easterlies. So all these wind movements usually takes place in the troposphere itself. So therefore troposphere plays a very important role in determining global wind patterns. So these wind patterns further distribute, so when wind has been flowing from the high pressure region to low pressure area, so they also distribute the heat and moisture in different parts of the world. Now when they are distributing heat and moisture, they try to establish the balance, okay, heat balance, and they even bring rainfall to the other areas. So in fact, we need to talk about one major example. So the Indian monsoon. So Indian monsoon generally we can observe in two phases. Firstly, we can observe in southwest monsoon. So southwest monsoon is, these winds are usually attracted because of the intertropical convergence zone is being formed over the northern India. So it is formed over the northern India, and this is a low pressure belt, and this low pressure belt attracts the southwest monsoon winds. However, during October, November times, the intertropical convergence zone shifts to the southern Indian Ocean or into Indian Ocean. So this led to the reversal of monsoon winds, and these monsoon winds are called as northeast monsoon winds. So this can be an example for determining wind patterns in the troposphere itself. Secondly, we need to talk about the weather fronts and systems. So weather fronts and weather systems are also determined by the troposphere, because the troposphere is the location for formation of weather fronts. So what are these weather fronts? Yesterday also we have discussed these weather fronts. A cold current meets the warm current, or warm current meets the cold current. So that's where the weather front forms, and weather fronts are also one of the most favorable breeding grounds for fish. So in this context, troposphere also plays a very important and a very significant role in formation of these weather fronts, where air masses collude with each other. So these air masses used to have a different temperatures, and they also have a different levels of humidity, and that also brings huge rainfall, and that even form conditions that favorable for the formation of cyclones and anticyclones. So cyclones and anticyclones are formed by the conditions which are facilitated by these weather fronts and other weather systems which takes place in the troposphere. So therefore the interaction of these air masses, the fronts, leads to the development of weather systems, cyclones and anticyclones. So by cyclone, recently now today itself a cyclone has been developing in the Bay of Bengal. Now the eastern part of a country is going to experience a havoc because of the severe nature of this cyclone. Okay, so the cyclone is cyclone Michigan, right? So now the example is the formation of a cold front which usually cause heavy rainfall and thunderstorms. So this can be mentioned as an example. Now when you write these example in each of these points, this will further enrich your answer. So it guarantees you to score good marks. Now in the conclusion, so you just have to conclude whatever you have mentioned in the body part of the answer. So there is no doubt that troposphere used to play most crucial role, okay, so in the entire atmosphere. Okay, so this is a most crucial atmospheric layer, so that determines the weather processes. So the weather processes like temperature gradient, water vapor content, wind patterns, and formation of weather fronts and other weather systems. So therefore all these factors, they don't work independently, but they work or they interact with each other in the troposphere. So therefore it further helps in creation of a diverse range of weather conditions that are being experienced in the Earth's surface. In fact, we can say that troposphere is responsible for the life on planet Earth. So majority of the oxygen we can find in the troposphere itself, and other favorable weather conditions are being facilitated by the troposphere. Now this is how you have to address this question. And the second question is about the sect. So what is sect? So the question, first understand the question. So analyze the salience of sect in Indian society vis-a-vis caste system, region and religion. So India have different caste, religion, culture, languages. Okay, so therefore India is a diverse country. Now in such a diverse country, when it comes to religion, within religion there are different sects. So when we talk about Hinduism, so in Hinduism there are different sects. For example, Vaishnavites and Shaivites, and even Shakti sect. So these are different sects. So they have separated from the original Hinduism because their practices, so the beliefs are different, but they are in the fold of Hinduism. Similarly, if we look at Islam or Muslims, there are Sunni and Shia sects. So these are different sects within the religions. And similarly, when we talk about Buddhism, within Buddhism also there are Hinayanas and Mahayanas. Now what is the difference between Hinayanas and Mahayanas? Now Hinayanas don't believe in deification of Buddha. Okay, so ornaments and other worldly features. However, the Mahayana Buddhism believes in the deification of Buddha, wearing ornaments, so etc. However, Hinayana mostly believes in the spiritual aspect of Lord Buddha. Now this is the what called as sect. So in this context we need to analyze the salience of sect in Indian society vis-a-vis caste, religion and region. So firstly you need to define what is sect. Okay, so sect is usually a subgroup of a religious, political and philosophical belief system. Usually it is an offshoot of larger group. Okay, so now Hinduism should be considered as a larger group. Now within Hinduism, there are different sects: Shaivism, Vaishnavism. Okay, so now if you consider Vaishnavism, this is a subgroup within the larger group. So within the larger group, Vaishnavism is a subgroup. So if we go by the definition, a sect is a subgroup of religious, political and philosophical belief system, usually an offshoot of the larger group. Okay, so now this is not just confined to the religious sphere. Okay, so religious sphere, but it also can be attributed to the political sphere. For example, during the Indian national movement, from the Indian National Congress, there were several parties that were being separated. For example, Justice Party, Swaraj Party, Congress Socialist Party. So they were also called as different sects from a larger group. Okay. Now, this term was originally belonged to the religious aspect. Okay, so this term actually attributed to the religious aspect, but apart from religious aspect, it also has the political and philosophical connotations. Now, it can refer to any organization. So, any organization, for example, within the Indian National Congress, Justice Party or Congress Socialist Party. So few leaders separated from the Congress Nationalist Party, and they have their own belief system. Now they have separated from a larger group, and they have breaks away from the larger organization that is called Indian National Congress. And now the Congress Socialist Party have their own rules and principles, and this is what is called as sect. Now in this case, the Congress Socialist Party is called as sect, and when it comes to religion, Vaishnavism and Shaivism, Shakti cult, they are called as sects. So you understand, I hope you understand the what exactly sect means. Now sects are usually created due to the perception of hearsay. So it means that they don't believe in the orthodox belief system of the larger organization or the parent organization. So therefore they have their own rules, own principles based on the existing social structure. Okay, so they have a different perception compared to their parent organization. So therefore they have separated from the larger organization. So Indologist Axel Michaels, so he wrote a book about Hinduism. Okay, so he defined sect in the context of Hinduism or Indian context. However, he described that sect does not mean that a split or excluded community, a community which is excluded from the larger group. Rather, it means that it is an organized tradition that is being specific to India. Now, this is the basic definition and a brief description about sect. Now, we need to understand the salience of sect in the Indian society vis-a-vis caste system. Now, we all know that caste system is one of the most prevalent system in India. Okay, so because of the caste system, there were several marginalized and downtrodden sections. They have been suffering the historical injustice. Right? So they have been suffering the historical injustice. Now, caste in India has been undergoing a rapid economic transformation, not just economic transformation, but also political transformation and social transformation as well. How? Because there's a casteization of politics and politicization of caste which has been taking place, and because of the urbanization phenomenons like urbanization and industrialization, there has been a rapid transformation of caste system in terms of the economic and social aspects. Okay, so since there has been a rising middle class, a rapid economic transformation of caste system has been taking place. Now this has resulted in creation of several subcastes and several others, and they are now becoming more and more assertive. So they want a separate identity apart from the caste system. For example, in Karnataka, you very often hear about the Lingayats, a sect called Lingayats, and Veerashaivas. So they wanted to identify them as differently or uniquely. because the socio-economic status of different subcaste in India has been rising rapidly, so they have started asserting their influence in different social and political arenas. For example, we need to talk about Marathas, Gujars, Jats and Patidars in various states. So their influence, their dominance in political and social arenas has been increasing rapidly. Now, secondly, we need to talk about the salience of sect in Indian society vis-a-vis region also, because this is clearly asked in the question. So the common geographic region that can also be divided into many sects. Now, if you compare, if you take the example of Assam Himalayas, now Assam Himalayas can be further segregated into, sects like Abor, Mishmi, Dafla, Nishi and Nagas. So this is how, when we talk about the region, in that particular region also there are different sects. Okay, now we need to talk about the salience of sect in the Indian society vis-a-vis religion. Okay, so religion is one of the most prominent feature of the Indian society. So India also has a diverse religious beliefs. So in this context we have Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Shaktism and Smartism. Okay, Smartism. So they are different sects or subgroups belong to Hinduism or within Hinduism. Okay, so even these are very often recognized with Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma. However, they differ in their rules, their principles, the primary deity. Okay, so despite differences, they are under the fold of Hinduism, and this is what is called as sect, and this we have been describing in terms of religion. Secondly, we need to talk about Islam. Now within Islam also there are different sects, Sunni sect and also Shia sects. So it has been divided, the Islam, into two groups of people, one who belong to the Sunni sect and other who belong to the Shia sect. Now in Iran we can find Shia sect Muslims. However, in Middle East like Saudi Arabia and UAE we can find the Sunni sect of Muslims. Now finally, in the conclusion, what you have to write, so you have to talk about the diversity, huge diversity of India. So India follows unity in diversity. Despite having the diversity, we are all connected. So sects are usually formed in every realm of society. So they are not just confined to the religion, but they are also formed in political aspect, philosophical aspect and various other realms. So because when the society has been undergoing changes rapidly, then based on these social requirements or the social changes, different sects used to form. Okay, so that that's the particular religion or the particular sect remains particularly relevant, systematically relevant. That is what we can call. Now if you look at the Indian society, we can call Indian society as a plural society, because different people belonging to different cultures living together. So that is called as plural society. Different races living together, that is called multi-ethnic, multicultural, multilinguistic and multi-religious country. So one of the most diverse countries in the world. So this is how you can conclude this answer. So the next question is about the value or the concept of secularism. So I hope you all know about the concept of secularism. Okay, so secularism is simply a Western concept, that is separation of state from religion. Okay, separation of state from religion. So this is the Western concept. However, the Western concept of secularism is different from the Indian concept of secularism. So because West usually follows negative secularism. So this is called as negative secularism. Negative secularism means a complete separation of state and religion. So on the other hand, countries like India follow the positive secularism. So there is no strict or complete separation of state and religion in countries like India. Okay, so in this context, the question has been asking that are tolerance, assimilation, and pluralism the key elements that have been making Indian secularism or Indian form of secularism a unique form of secularism? So does Indian secularism have the values of tolerance, assimilation, and pluralism? So this is what the question is. Firstly, you can define what is secularism. So a brief definition of secularism is enough. Now secularism in India is a unique concept. Why unique concept? Because our concept of secularism is different from the Western concept of secularism. Okay, so this is a unique concept, and this concept promotes religious harmony and equality among all the diverse communities. Because so India is a culturally diverse country. So because of such huge cultural diversity, it is very important that the concept of secularism ensures religious harmony and equality among diverse communities. In fact, so we can say that Indian secularism is shaped by three concepts. They are tolerance, assimilation, and pluralism. Okay, so Indian secularism is well shaped by tolerance, assimilation, and pluralism. Now, firstly, we need to talk about tolerance. So how tolerance has shaped Indian secularism. Now, what is the tolerance? What is the value? What is exactly the concept of tolerance means? So tolerance simply means accepting and respecting the religious beliefs, the cultural beliefs of the other individual within the same society. For example, when you are in a college, so you have to respect your fellow students' religious beliefs, cultural beliefs. So when you are in a workplace, you should respect your fellow employees' beliefs and cultural and his own culture. So this is what is called as tolerance. And in tolerance, there is no place for any prejudice. Okay, so we are treating everyone as equal individuals. Now in India, tolerance is being reflected in its ethos called Sarva Dharma Sambhava. So what does this mean? It means that all religions are equal. Now the terms like Sarva Dharma Sambhava are very important. When you write these terms in your answers, particularly the society answers, so that would further enrich your content. Now Sarva Dharma Sambhava meaning all religions are equal. So this principle is also enshrined in the constitution. So how it has enshrined in the constitution? Indian Constitution Fundamental Rights Article 25 to 28 talks about the right to religion. So everyone can freely profess, practice, and propagate their own religion. Okay, so apart from that, Indian Constitution also talks about the Uniform Civil Code. So that is also in line with the Sarva Dharma Sambhava. So therefore, Indian Constitution has allowed the practice of different religions without any discrimination or without any fear of persecution. Now we can mention the example that in the country, in different streets, there are religious processions of different religious deities regularly takes place. Okay, so the festivals and religious processions usually takes place, and this openly reflects the acceptance and respecting each other's cultural beliefs, and that is the best example of following tolerance by the people. Secondly, we need to talk about the assimilation aspect. Now, what does assimilation means? So assimilation simply means integration of diverse groups into a unified whole. Okay, so we are a diverse country. So since we are a diverse country, we are integrating those diverse groups into a unified whole. So that is what is called as assimilation. Now, assimilation in terms of, we can talk about Indian history from the Indus Valley Civilization, Mughal era, and British India, and even the modern India. So we have been assimilating or accommodating different religions, cultural and religious influences. Okay, so Indian culture historically assimilated various cultural and religious influences right from the Indus Valley Civilization, Mughal era, and British rule. Now if we talk specifically about the assimilation, we need to talk about the cultural confluence of Indo-Islamic architecture. Now, Indo-Islamic architecture is very famous in India. For example, Qutub Minar. Okay, so Qutub Minar is built on the Indo-Islamic architectural style. So we can also talk about the fusion of Indian and Western musical traditions in Bollywood. That is also a very famous example of assimilation in India. Okay, so in this context, India's secularism undoubtedly has the capacity to assimilate and absorb different cultural influences. So therefore, it has been reflecting a cohesive social fabric. Okay, so undoubtedly we can say that Indian secularism is shaped by the value of assimilation. Thirdly, we need to discuss about the aspect of pluralism. So what does pluralism means? It is the existence of multiple distinct cultures, traditions, groups in a single society with a mutual respect and harmony, and this is what is called as pluralistic society. Now, India is a pluralistic society. Why? Because in India, different people belonging to different ethnicity, different races, different languages, religions, they used to live together in harmony, okay, and peace. Now, India with the numerous languages, religions and cultures is actually called as an epitome. Okay, so India is called as an epitome of pluralism. Okay, so the pluralistic aspect is also fundamental to the Indian secularism because it perfectly denotes the coexistence between different faiths and cultures. So when we talk about the example for the pluralism, we can mention city of Varanasi. Why? Because in this city, the Hindu temple, Muslim mosque and even the church, they live in a very they are located in a very close proximity, and this perfectly indicating the harmonious coexistence of different faiths, and that is the essence of a pluralistic society. So therefore India is called as a pluralistic society. Now in the conclusion, you can summarize whatever you have discussed in your answer. Now, Indian secularism is undoubtedly a product of tolerance, assimilation and pluralism. So therefore, it has been reflecting a mosaic of diverse but coexisting religious and cultural expressions together. However, the success of secularism is very important, particularly for a country like India. Okay, so the success of secularism is primarily depend on striking a perfect balance between respecting individual religious rights and also promoting a unified national identity. So we cannot simply focus on the national unity, neglecting the religious rights of the people, or we can simply focus on the religious rights of the people, neglecting the national identity. There should be a perfect balance. So therefore, these concepts not only form the core of Indian secularism, but they also represent the larger Indian social ethos in line with the principles of Sarva Dharma Sambhava. And this is how you can conclude this answer. So the next question is about globalization. Now, globalization is also a very important theme that UPSC has been regularly repeating. Now, in this context, the question has been asking us that elucidate the relationship between globalization and new technology in a world that has scarce resources with special reference to India. So even if you write the answer, narrate the answer, you have to emphasize more on India. So emphasizing more on India means that you have to provide examples, and you should also provide relevant data with respect to India. So that is how you can score good marks in this answer. Now, firstly, we need to understand what exactly globalization means. Now, globalization encompasses the increasing integration. Okay, so it essentially means integration. So integration of economies, cultures and societies on a global scale. So how the integration is facilitated? The integration is primarily facilitated by the advancements. Okay, so it has been facilitated by the advancements in communication, transportation and trade. So in this context, in this integration, increasing integration, new technology particularly refers to the rapid developments in digital technologies. So in recent past, we have been seeing a rapid development in digital technologies, digital transactions, big data, artificial intelligence, robotics, so everything. Okay, so therefore globalization has also facilitated the growth and development of new technologies. So these are new technologies: digital technologies, automation, and artificial intelligence. So they have been reshaping the industries and societies. So this is the basic definition of globalization. Now in India, a nation battling resource scarcity. Now India, with the highest population in the world, it has around 142 crore population. So it has been battling a resource scarcity, and in this context, the interaction between globalization and technology has manifested in terms of various positive and negative aspects. Now we need to understand what are those positive and negative aspects. Now here also a brief definition of globalization has been given. So this is the way people around the world have been more connected socially, politically, economically, and technologically. So this is the simple definition of globalization. Now positive impacts of globalization. Now the IT industry and job creation. So IT industry is related to the technological field, and IT industry has grown at a rapid pace, particularly because of the globalization. Okay, so firms like Infosys, TCS, and Tech Mahindra, so all these firms have been essentially riding on the globalization, the positive aspects of globalization. And this technological companies or information technology companies have created a lot of gainful employment opportunities for the people, and they are also offering software solutions globally, saving on physical resources, not just physical resources, even material resources for the countries in the West. Secondly, we need to talk about the e-commerce efficiency. So we have seen the rapid growth of e-commerce. For example, Myntra, Amazon, Flipkart. So they have grown at a rapid scale. So, now everything is being ordered online, right from food to any other essential item. So in this context, it has resulted in a product diversity, more competitiveness, and with fewer resource inputs. For example, this can reduce the fuel and even reducing the environmental impact. So therefore e-commerce also has a positive benefits. Secondly, we need to talk about the green energy innovations. So green energy innovations in the sense that because of increasing integration of the world, so what happened, we have been importing the solar panels, most efficient solar panels from other countries like US. And not just the solar panels, even the wind turbines and new technologies, and private investment has been coming in or pouring into green energy technologies or green energy innovations. So that has benefited the countries like India, which have been trying to transform their economies or make their economies more and more green and clean economies. The Suzlon Energy Limited, this is an Indian wind turbine company. So this has been showcased technology-driven globalization, how the technology-driven globalization offer energy solutions countering the traditional energy resource scarcity. We need to talk about the smart farming as well. So with changing society requirements, food security needs, and with climate change and global warming, there's a need for smart farming, precision farming. So therefore, the agri-tech startups like DHeart, AgroStar, so they use technology for improved resources management and resource use efficiency in agriculture. And that is very essential for saving or sustainable use of essential resources like water and soil. And finally, we need to talk about the digital education. So the digital education platforms like Byju's and Unacademy have revolutionized digital education, access to digital education to more and more students at the doorsteps. So these are the positive benefits of increasing integration and new technologies, particularly because of globalization. Now, when we talk about the negative impacts of globalization, we need to talk about the digital divide. Okay, so we need to talk about the digital divide. So what exactly the digital divide means? So digital divide involves lack of access to the internet, lack of access to the digital devices to a particular segment of people, for example rural, female, compared to their male counterparts or compared to their urban counterparts, and this is what is called as digital divide. In fact, the digital divide has further widened because of the COVID-19 pandemic and lower economic status, lower socio-economic status, and lack of infrastructure and connectivity, right? So this digital divide has been making digital education and e-commerce less accessible to the rural and economically disadvantaged populations, and this has been further creating social inequalities. Secondly, we need to talk about the digital job displacement. So because a rapid change in the technologies over a period of time, people are not able to change their skills. So that has been leading to a widespread loss of jobs. So this has been leading to job losses among the people. So they are not in a pace to change their skills with changing technologies and technology requirements. Okay, so this is also leading to the job displacement. And the other major concern because of the globalization and new technologies is the data privacy concerns. This is one of the most biggest challenge, the data privacy concern. With multinational tech companies have been storing the user data, the risk of data breaches further increases. Now, data breaches, the financial information, the personal information of individuals is at risk because of the globalization and increased threats to the data security. And we need to talk about the overconsumption and waste generation. So the world is now signified with the consumerism, individualism. So they mostly emphasize on overconsumption, and that has been resulting in creation of a lot of waste. And since this has been increasing the carrying capacity of the environment, the capacity of our existing recycling infrastructure, this has been leading to unsustainable development, even the environmental degradation. Since we have a very scarce resources, it is very important that we need to promote the responsible consumption and recycling in order to minimize the waste generation. Now, in the conclusion, globalization and technology present a two-sided coin. Okay, so two-sided coin means it has both positives and negatives. So it has offered opportunities for growth, resource optimization, but at the same time it was also posing challenges like inequality, job loss and job displacement, and the data privacy. So therefore we need to address these concerns and make sure that a balanced and inclusive policies are required whenever we are considering new technologies for the betterment of people, betterment of lives and livelihoods of the people, so that would benefit all the sections of the society while mitigating the negative impacts. So that's it about this question. So in this way you can conclude this answer. Okay, so that's all from my side for today, and if you like the video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you will get more and more such classes, and that will be helpful for your preparation. Thank you.